What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and when Aston Martin first revealed that it was going to be building an SUV, I scoffed at the idea. I said, here's another luxury performance automaker selling out by building an SUV just so they could make money. And then I drove the original DBX and it completely changed everything. This was not a cash grab. This was what the Cayenne did for Porsche, a fabulous car that took everything about the Aston Martin brand ethos and put it in a more convenient family package. Now, Aston Martin has gone full crazy with a new model. This is called the DBX 707. It is the most powerful luxury SUV Durango Hellcat still exists. I guess that's not a luxury car ever built. It has a twin turbo AMG sourced V8 producing almost 700 horsepower. That's where the 707 comes in, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Let's start by talking about what's new on the outside of the DBX 707, where the grille is actually 27% larger than a standard DBX, and that is for a good reason, not just aesthetic. That is to get more air into that engine because 700 horsepower needs to cool properly. And honestly, I think it makes the DBX look so aggressive. I absolutely love the new front end. We also have a very aggressive front black splitter down here as well. And we have this Apex gray, which is a very tasteful way to be a little bit unique with the DBX's color palette, but without being too outlandish. It's about a $5,000 option. I would go for something more outrageous because I'm an outrageous personality, but I think this is quite a nice little middle ground here. We also have optional black 23, yep, you heard that correctly, 23-inch wheels. I believe they're about $5,700 to get. They look fabulous on the DBX, especially from this side profile, but they do hurt the ride a little bit. So I don't know if I would personally get these options for $5,700, but they do look great. I should also let you know that they kick dirt all over the side of this. I had to clean this and it's already starting to get a little dirty like 5 minutes later, but you're gonna have to clean these doors constantly with a rag if you get these wheels. I'm not sure if the 22s will also do that. They probably will. We also have yellow brake calipers. They're carbon ceramic brakes, so they stop really well, but they do squeal. There is a way to fix that, but I'm not going to tell you because it involves going over the speed limit. We also have a ton of carbon fiber on the exterior. You can see these fins here are carbon fiber. The door mirrors are carbon fiber. That's like a $4,700 package. Honestly, I'm not such a huge fan of exterior carbon fiber, especially for how much it costs, so I probably would not get it. I love how the DBX looks in side profile. It looks so much unlike other SUVs, especially here at the back, where Aston has copied the sort of duckbill design that you get on the Vantage sports car. It kind of lifts up there on the boot, and then the 707 has this really cool, very large rear spoiler with carbon fiber on it because of an optional package. I think it looks fantastic. Very cool design there. We also have these smoked taillights. They're about $1,200. I think they look pretty cool, especially with the Apex gray. And as you can see, the rear end of this car is also super aggressive. We've got tailpipes, 4 of them sticking right out of the bumper, which is quite cool. I mean, I guess the actual exhaust is right there. This is kind of just like a fake tip, but they do look really cool jutting out of the bumper like that. And then we have this crazy diffuser. This is the craziest diffuser I think I've ever seen on any SUV. It is absolutely nuts. And this is the best angle of the duckbill, how it just kind of comes up like that. That is really cool. And amazingly, you don't lose all that much practicality here with the DBX. You can see I have all of my stuff fitting in there purposefully to show you the amount of space that we have. I have my suit jacket and a couple of bags. You get a little over 22 cubic feet of storage in here, which is noteworthy because it is bigger than the Lamborghini Urus. It is also bigger than the Bentley Bentayga. It is also bigger than the Porsche Cayenne Turbo GT, which are all pretty close competitors to the DBX. Now here we have our adjustable air suspension, so you can lower or raise the whole trunk if you want stuff to be easier or harder to load with that button. And we do have buttons here automatically that will drop down the rear seats. I'll go ahead and go wide so I can show you how that works. Just click it. And if I do that in concert, they'll fold down a little better. It's because I was a little slow on the button push, but the seats will fold down. And as you can see, the DBX is a pretty good cargo hauler. Now I'm going to show you the rear legroom. You're probably going to want to put some kids in the DBX. You just pull the handle like so. It's a little bit like a Tesla door handle. We do have soft closed doors on this model. We also have double thick but pillarless glass here. The double thick acoustic glass is part of a package. I would definitely get it because the DBX is very, very quiet with it. We have some really nice carbon fiber here on the door, as well as these really nice door handles as well. The rear legroom is plentiful. We've got a little over 41 inches of rear legroom back here. Again, notable, that is more than an Urus, it's more than a Porsche. It's actually more than the long wheelbase Bentley Bentayga that just came out, which is kind of crazy. As you can see, although the outside of my DBX tester is a little bit plain, the interior is anything but. We've got kind of this yellow up here with the yellow Aston Martin logo. We've got some black, we've got some grayish white here in the middle. Absolutely outrageous color combo that shows off that you really can do just about anything on this interior when you buy the DBX. And we do have some releases here. There are buttons on the back there. You just click those and you can lower the seats from the second row or from the trunk. I always like that in an SUV. I'm gonna go ahead and show you the amount of legroom that I have sitting behind myself is plentiful. We have some little storage in there. And although this is not illuminated right now, we do have 2 USB ports here. We have temperature controls, and you do get heated and ventilated seats back here, which is a nice luxury touch. And one of my favorite features is, look at this, you get carbon fiber on the back of the seat. You don't get any entertainment screens or whatever, but at least you can look at the beautiful carbon fiber weave. All right, so now let's check out where you will probably be sitting in the DBX, which is up front. We've got these gorgeous front seats. They are very nicely bolstered. You do get heating and ventilation here. No massage function though. And as you can see, they have the same crazy, outrageous color scheme that we found in the rear. We've got our yellow Aston Martin crests up here on the headrests. These seats are very comfortable. They're not the most comfortable in the segment though, but they're kind of made to hug you in and be sporty because this car does have a very strong performance mission. We've got tons of leather everywhere. Every surface you touch seems to be made out of the stuff or metal, or you get carbon fiber. Just look at this big patch of carbon fiber here on the door. We've got a little carbon fiber plaque saying hand built in England here as we walk into the car. And we've got oodles of carbon fiber here on this center console area. You can see it is just awash with the stuff. Now let's go ahead and step on in to this fabulously clean and modern interior. We can go ahead and soft close the doors. And as typical with Aston Martin, we have our push button shifters with the engine stop start in the middle. These are glass controls, so foot on the brake, start her up, and we can hear that engine purr. So we'll start by talking about the steering wheel area. We have this beautiful leather. I love that Aston Martin hasn't gone for any silly touch buttons or touch controls here on the steering wheel, just normal buttons that are very easy to operate and easy to understand. We've got these gorgeous carbon fiber paddle shifters that are on the column, so they stay exactly where you left them. Just look at how gorgeous they are, and they, oh my God, they have such a satisfying feel to them. It is fantastic. We do have some signs that the Aston Martin shares technology with Mercedes. This is a Mercedes windshield wiper stock, but if you're gonna borrow from the best. And we do have a digital gauge cluster. I do miss Aston Martin's analog gauges because they were just oh so pretty. But this is a pretty good gauge. You have different menus that you can cycle through in the middle. You can use this little home button here to have more trip, navigation, radio, media, whatever you want. And then you can also change the tachometer. So you can have that showing your MPG, or you can have it be a full color map, which is kind of nice as well. So I do like the functionality of that. It is borrowed from Mercedes-Benz, but I think it is a little bit more easy to understand than how Mercedes-Benz does it. Ditto for this screen. So this is, you probably have seen other Aston Martin DBX reviews in the past. even in my initial review of this car, I was not a big fan of this infotainment system. It's a 10-inch screen, and although it looks like you should be able to touch it, it is not a touch screen. You have to use either a combination of this rotary dial that also goes up, down, left, and right like a joypad, or you can use this little touch slider to go up and down. It is not the most intuitive. It's basically a 2-generation old Mercedes-Benz infotainment system. I really wish Aston Martin would get the newest system, but I think they probably had to order so many of these or whatever, so they're probably stuck with this for a little while. You'd think on a big refresh like a 707, they would possibly get a newer infotainment system, but they didn't. It does have Apple CarPlay. As you can see, my phone's just not connected, so that is a plus. You'll just have to either use this or this little touchpad to control it, which is not ideal. I don't love these touch buttons here for things like the heated and ventilated seats, which, by the way, you can activate at the same time, which is really cool. You might be able to hear those ventilated seats. They are very loud, but they are incredibly powerful. They work so well. This is one of the best ventilated seats. It is so cold. I absolutely love it. And then down below that, we have a lot of physical buttons. Now, I like the physical buttons here on the dashboard. We have things like our exhaust. The only thing is, you can see there's a little light on it, but you can honestly barely tell when it is on or off. So that is your loud exhaust button. Lane keep assist. You can adjust your suspension up or down here. You have a little volume knob right here, which is great. Parking sensors, parking cameras. We do have a 360-degree camera on this car. Let me go ahead if I can show you that. There's the 360 view. All of this is kind of standard too, which is really great. You actually get a lot of standard features here. You don't have to nickel and dime for tech options like you would on something like a Porsche or even a Bentley. So that is really good in terms of Aston Martin. Things like carbon fiber are a lot extra, but those are just aesthetic, and I don't think you really need those. Now, right here in the center, this is a really important control. This is our drive mode controller, so it spins in both directions, and you can see the different modes here. So GT is going to be your standard mode. You have individual where you can kind of cater it how you want it. Terrain mode for off-roading. It'll raise up the car as well. I don't think that's going to get much use. And then you have a Sport and a Sport Plus mode that we'll try out on the road as well. If you click this button, it's going to switch you from automatic to manual mode. And when you're in any of the modes, you can change the suspension. So let's just say you want sporty, Sport Plus, but only sport suspension, or comfort suspension. And I really like how quick that is, as well as the traction control to just kind of get in and out with exactly what you want. And the last thing I'm going to mention is that we do have a glass roof, but it does have a big cover, which is great, so you don't always have to get baked by the sun. This is a massive piece of glass that stretches all the way back, and it lets a ton of light into the cabin, which I absolutely love. And before we get the Aston Martin DBX 707 out on the road, I just want to talk about what's under the hood. You actually pop the hood here on the passenger side. It's like a weird Aston Martin quirk thing because, you know, it's British and the steering wheel is usually over there on that side, so I think they just don't want to move the hood latch. A little bit strange, but what can you do? To talk about the engine and the name of this car. So it's a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8, the same one that you get in the standard DBX, but this one produces a lot more power. It is still sourced from Mercedes AMG, so it is hand built. And then the final inspection is done in Britain. This one was done by Ben Huxtable, which is definitely not a German sounding name. You've got the turbos. It is a hot V. Now this one produces 707 PS. That is how they measure power in Europe. We measure power a little bit differently. So in American horsepower numbers, it is 697, which doesn't sound as impressive as 707. I think they just really liked that number. You know, it kind of sounds like 007, Aston Martin, James Bond, that sort of thing. So that's why they went with that name. You know, the Dodge Hellcat produces 707 horsepower, so I think they just made that sound a little bit better, but it is 697 horsepower. That is why the name is a little bit silly here in the US. All right, so now let's get the DBX 707 out on the road, and we're gonna first talk about the engine. Again, it's a very important part of the car, although it might not be the most important change. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As I mentioned before, 4-liter twin turbocharged V8, 697 horsepower, 663 pound-feet of torque. That's 155 horsepower and 147 pound-feet of torque more than a standard DBX. That is a huge boost over a standard DBX. You're getting a lot of additional performance here. In fact, the 0 to 60 time goes down by 1.2 seconds and the top speed goes up by 12 miles an hour. So what I'm going to do now is show you that 0 to 60 time, probably not the top speed, unfortunately, because it's 193 miles an hour. I don't want to go to prison today, but what I'm going to do is put it into Sport Plus mode, which is allowing me to do a race start. So foot on the brake, foot on the gas. It's very easy to do. Ready, race start, release. Oh my God! That is ferocious. Oh my God. Listen to that engine. Holy crap. That sounds amazing. Listen. Oh, it rips off shifts. Listen to it. Oh. I gotta do that again. Okay, let's bring it to a stop. We're gonna launch control again. Race start. Ready? Oh! Wow! It back squats so hard. Oh my God. And then we've got carbon ceramic brakes that bring it down to a really quick stop. Woo-hoo-hoo. That is fantastic. Whew. We've got the gorgeous carbon paddle shifters that you can pull here, and they link to a different transmission than you get in the standard DBX. The standard DBX has a 9-speed automatic, the same one that a lot of other Mercedes cars use. This has a wet clutch 9-speed automatic. So it's kind of like a dual clutch. Instead of a torque converter, it has a secondary wet clutch that it uses to start off. So basically you get all of the best of an automatic with all of the best of a dual clutch. So a smooth start with rapid shifts. Oh my God, Sport Plus just completely changes how this thing shifts. It's so docile in normal mode, and then it's so absolutely ferocious in Sport Plus mode. Wow, it's absolutely insane. The ride definitely gets bumpier. We're on a bumpy Florida back road here. I'm gonna go ahead and change the suspension like I told you we can do. So now I have Sport Plus mode, but my suspension is super comfortable. Oh, that is how I like to drive. The speed and performance. I thought that the standard DBX was plenty, but this is just hilarious. You don't need this much power. The standard DBX is plenty, but this is absolutely outrageous. I think it's right up there with the Durango Hellcat in terms of lunacy. But honestly, that straight line performance is not the reason why you buy a DBX 707. This is a sports car in an SUV body. I'm gonna go ahead and chuck it through a 90-degree corner and flat, level, steering, so much feel through it. This is such good steering. I love that Aston Martin didn't just make it obnoxiously heavy like a BMW or some other German cars. Oh, the steering is so good, and it just doesn't roll at all. It has a triple chamber air suspension with something that Aston Martin calls electronic active roll control, or E-ARC. It's not the sexiest name ever, E-ARC. But what it does is lets you corner completely flat in this car. I can't believe that I'm in an SUV right now. It honestly feels like I'm in a sports car. And I know you've probably heard that a million times before. Oh, this SUV, it drives like a sports car. I've driven a lot and they still feel big and cumbersome. This just doesn't. It has that nice rear bias. You can honestly like kick out the back really easily. As I mentioned, just no body roll at all. Oh, it's absolutely hysterical. I think, like I said in my original DBX review, I think there's only one SUV that I've ever driven that could even come close to matching the DBX on fun. Oh, little bit of slide from the back there. And that was the Alfa Romeo Stelvio Quadrifoglio. I thought that was one of the best SUVs when I drove it. It had only two problems. It had a cheap interior and the ride was absolutely atrocious. But on a back road, I thought it was the SUV to have. And the DBX was extremely close. It made me hesitate about whether or not that was the best SUV I had ever driven. With the 707, Aston Martin has come in and completely blown everything away. This is now the unequivocal best SUV that I have ever driven in terms of it being a driver's car. It is a true Aston Martin in every sense of the word. It doesn't feel like a cash grab. It doesn't feel cynical. It just feels like an Aston Martin should. And then when I go ahead and take it out of its Sport Plus mode and I put it back into its GT mode, it becomes a comfortable, quiet, daily driver SUV. That air suspension, even with 23-inch wheels, rides great. The steering is precise but not cumbersome on the highway. The engine is, you get like a little bit of gurgle from it, but it's not outrageous like a Durango Hellcat. It's not going to keep the kids in the back up with the drone. It is just such a well thought out, well balanced driver's machine, and I absolutely love it. I loved the standard DBX, but I think with the 707, in terms of how it drives, Aston Martin has made it perfect. All right, so that was the 2023 Aston Martin DBX 707. What did you think of it? Let me know in the comments section. I'm gonna go ahead and summarize it now along with pricing. So pricing is gonna start at $236,000. The one that you see here is optioned to $292,500, so it is extremely expensive. But as I said before, this is an amazing luxury car. It's so comfortable and quiet. The ride is good despite the incredible performance, which is like a Durango Hellcat, except more refined, but also somehow just as crazy. And I think that the DBX drives so much better than something like the Bentley Bentayga. Unfortunately, I have not driven the Cayenne or the Lamborghini Urus, but I have difficulty believing that they could possibly drive as well as this DBX. In terms of pricing, the DBX is more expensive than the Urus. It's a little bit cheaper than a Bentley Bentayga Speed, and it is a lot more expensive than the Cayenne Turbo GT. But as we know with Porsche, you can option that car well above $200,000. We know that the Lamborghini is very similar as well. And Aston says that spec adjusted, meaning all of the stuff that you get standard here in the DBX, if you were to add those to the Lamborghini Urus, you'd be about $18,000 cheaper here on the Aston. And honestly, I think that the Aston Martin design language has translated better to an SUV than Lamborghini's has. Let me know if you agree with that statement, because right now I think the DBX 707 is the crazy exotic luxury SUV that I would buy if I hit the lottery tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. And if you want to read more about the Aston Martin DBX 707, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.